free. Tuesdays at 4, join host Patty Alvarez for The Good Soul, a show with in-depth chats with people from all walks of life. Want a sneak peek? Download the WSIC app now and stream The Good Soul podcast.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Good morning, Lake Norman. Welcome to another episode. This is the Woody Washam Show. It's about town. I'm filling in for Mayor Woody Washam today. My name is Officer Vinnie DiGerolamo with the Cornelius Police Department. And I'm sure many of you have heard the show before. And as you know, that on the second Thursday of every month, it's Public Safety Day. We have various guests on the show. We talk about different things that folks are interested in, folks want to hear about, some of the community events that we have going on. I am the community engagement officer. I have a lot of roles in the police department, but, primarily my responsibility is to go out and kind of build really good relationships with the community, with the business owners in town, kind of bridge the gap between the police department and our wonderful citizens out there. So without further ado, so we have a special guest today, and I'm going to introduce you to him in a minute. But as you know, the police department has many different divisions, many different areas of expertise. We have a K-9 unit. We've got Lake Patrol. We've got CID, which is Criminal Investigations Division. We've got a Crime Reduction Unit, Vice Narcotics. There's so many functioning parts of the police department that we have. We're really proud of. So our guest today is Detective Bradley Nichols. He is with the CID unit, which is the Criminal Investigations Unit, and I will let him introduce himself. So,
thank you, Vinnie.
Yeah, Detective, thanks for being here. So tell us a little bit about who Bradley Nichols is on the job and off the job, and how long you've been here and all that good stuff.
Well, like Vinnie said, my name is Brad Nichols. Been with the PD for 15 years next month.
Wow.
Started off on patrol, did about 2 years as a patrol officer here at PD.
Mm-hmm.
Position came open in criminal investigations. I always had an interest in criminal investigations. Put in for that position and been doing that ever since. So I've been criminal investigator since 2011.
Wow.
A little bit about my background. So always had an interest in law enforcement. Come from a kind of a family background of law enforcement.
Yeah. Now your grandfather and your father were police officers, right? Tell us about that a little bit.
That's right. Yeah, my grandfather, he was a police officer up in Virginia back in the 50s.
Wow.
And wound up becoming a justice of the peace and a magistrate. He retired as a magistrate in Virginia.
Wow.
I'm originally from kind of the Martinsville, Virginia area, a small town called Fieldale, a little mill town in Virginia.
Sure.
My father, when I was a young child, he was a deputy with the Henry County Sheriff's Office in Virginia.
Wow.
So kind of grew up around that, always, had an interest in that, saw that, that service. So definitely had that same type of interest. Knew I kind of wanted to get into, whether it be service in law enforcement or military, something like that.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
Growing up, saw my dad, he was an investigator as well.
Oh, wow.
This was early 90s, so I
Mm-hmm.
see him wear the blazer, the tie,
Right.
and the unmarked car. So
Right.
always like that. So always knew I wanted to get an investigation. So again, started that in 2011. Been doing that ever since.
That's great. Now you're, I know, but for the folks out there, you are a corporal. So you're like a supervisor, right?
Right.
Over the division. So the division is made up of 4 detectives, 1 sergeant, and then the lieutenant oversees the entire CID, support services, and CRU.
That's right.
Right. Okay. So now you have, I know, and again, I know you really well, but the folks out there, they want to know you have taken some specialized training. So you're not just on our PD level, but talk a little bit about your FBI credentials. That's really cool.
Right. So in addition to being, a detective with Cornelius PD, I'm also a task force officer with the FBI out of Charlotte. So I'm on their cyber unit there. So I'm also sworn with the FBI as a task force officer. all of us in the Criminal Investigations Division, we're also on the North Carolina ICAC Task Force, which is the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force.
Wow.
So that's through the State Bureau of Investigation. So a little bit about our division. Like I said, there's 4 detectives within our division. We're all general crimes detectives, meaning we're not specialized, meaning we don't have, like a homicide division. We don't have a robbery division. We work everything.
Right.
So, we work anything from frauds to homicides, crimes against children, robberies. We work everything. And we mainly specialize in the felony crimes, the more serious crimes.
Right. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting, and you can imagine that how well-versed you have to be in each one of those areas, right? Like you've got to know about cyber crimes. You've got to know about fraud. Crimes against children. You have to know about robbery. And thank goodness we don't have a lot of homicides, right? But I mean, if that situation ever came up, you have to be really specially trained to know how to handle that and how to really do the investigation part.
Absolutely, and I think that's one benefit to working for a smaller town agency and being a general detective is we do get to work a little bit of everything and get that experience and are very well rounded. And we also do our own crime scene processing, so we're all trained in crime scene processing, forensics, as well as criminal investigations.
Wow, that's great. So, take us through like a typical, say, crime scene situation. So we have a call in town. Maybe it's a robbery. Unfortunately, these things happen, right? It could be a robbery that happened overnight.
Right.
It could happen during the day, or so kind of take us through the process about how the initial investigation begins to how we try to almost solve the crime.
Right. So typically, 911 calls in. 911 call comes in, say for a robbery. Now, if it's something that happens overnight, a detective is not necessarily on duty. We're typically working 8 to 4 Monday through Friday, but a detective is always on call 24/7. So you have a robbery call comes in at night. Patrol officers are, of course, the first officers that respond out to the scene.
Right.
They're going to be the ones securing the scene, getting the story and the details from the victims, securing that scene, any evidence. And then they're going to be contacting the on-call detective or the on-call supervisor for the detectives, providing the details of what has happened. And then a on-call detective or multiple detectives, depending on the severity of the situation, be dispatched to the scene. Will come out. They will, start interviewing witnesses, interviewing victims, collecting evidence, processing the scene, and then start taking all that evidence and the information they've obtained from witnesses and victims and investigating that case and start developing suspects and tracking that down.
Right. So, and that's another really interesting thing too about, your investigation skills, but your interview skills, right? Like your ability to really, really dig down and who saw the crime, what information could be gathered, and then how do you take that information and create almost like putting a puzzle together, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you're putting the puzzle together from anything that you find.
Very great analogy.
Well, that's great. Well, all right. So, folks, we'll be right back after the commercial break. We will come back with Detective Nichols, and we'll talk more about this.
Don't go anywhere. We'll return with more of Mayor Woody Washam and About Town in just a moment on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, our rain finally moving out. Sunshine peeking out this afternoon. What a sight for sore eyes. It'll get windy, though. Wind gusts around 20 to 25 miles an hour. Temperatures climb up to around 60 to finish off our Thursday. We'll get cold tonight. Temperatures drop back down to around freezing. And heading into our Friday for Valentine's Day. Sunny and cold with highs in the upper 40s to near 50. Our rain comes back for the weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses like iCats Public Transit.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Thursday, February 13th, Lake Norman Woman Magazine is hosting Ladies' Night at Bin 110 in Cornelius. The relaxing social evening begins at 6:30 p.m. Feel free to come make new friends, get to know your neighbors in the community, and possibly catch up with pals you have not seen in a while. Bin 110 hosts Ladies' Night this Thursday, brought to you by Lake Norman Woman Magazine. The Wine Maestro in Statesville has live music with Captain Dar on Friday. Captain Dar delivers entertainment with a capital E. With his acoustic music sets, it makes a perfect addition to your Valentine's Day plans. The Wine Maestro in Statesville presents live music on Friday night at 7 p.m. Mooresville Arts and Events welcomes you to join them for a date night like no other in the ballrooms of the Charles Mack Citizen Center on Friday and Saturday. Sigmund Theatrical's Murder Mystery Crew is back with Check-In for Murder. The action will unfold around you, with some guests even becoming characters inside of the story. It's a high-class evening of dinner, theater, and mystery. Visit statesvilleevents.com for tickets and information. Enjoy the Valentine's Day special at the Speedway Club at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Come celebrate with that someone special with a 3-course dinner or something off the regular menu. The Speedway Club Valentine's special runs Thursday, February 13th through Saturday, February 15th. Then on Sunday, you can cheer on your favorite driver during the Great American Race at the Speedway Club Daytona 500 viewing party. Visit 704-455-3216 for Speedway Club reservations or visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for more information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Merlefest 2025, presented by Window World, returns April 24th through the 27th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Hear the Avett Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, The Dead South, Watch House, Wyatt Floors, I'm With Her, Leftover Salmon, The Warren Treaty, The Steel Drivers, and many more. For tickets, visit merlefest.org.
It's About Town with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
And welcome back, everyone. Again, this is the Woody Washam Show, About Town. I'm filling in for Mayor Washam. This is Officer Vinnie DiGerolamo. And if you're just joining, I have a very special guest today. I'm here with Detective Bradley Nichols from the Cornelius Police Department. He works in our criminal investigations unit, and we're talking about his credentials and what he's done and how important it is to have this division, functioning within our police department. So it's a very, very specialized division, and they handle everything from, again, robberies to crimes, cyber crimes, different things, crimes against children, like anything that it could be potentially a felon, right? Felony charges, right? Things like that. So many, many different aspects. And we were talking about the skill level that you have to have. I mean, it's a lot of training, right? And we talked about things about the investigation part of it, but the interview part of it. So it's like putting together a puzzle.
Absolutely. Putting together a puzzle, all the pieces, whether it's, physical evidence, circumstantial evidence. But, I always tell people one of the most important skills that we have is being able to talk to somebody and being able to gather information.
Right.
If you can't talk to somebody, you can't do this job.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right.
But
Sure.
yeah, like I said, it's like putting a puzzle together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you have to have that level of trust, right? Because, we always say in this, there's a difference between interviewing and interrogation, right?
Absolutely.
So when you interview someone, right, would you say the interview process is more as that you're gathering information?
Right.
Now, is that person, I actually had this question yesterday come up, is the person that you're interviewing, are they a suspect or are they a potential suspect? Or how do you differentiate who gets interrogated and who gets interviewed?
Yeah, so good question. I mean, an interview can be a suspect, it could be a victim, it could be a witness, it could be anybody. The main thing with an interview is that it's just a voluntary interview.
Okay.
So now with an interrogation, that's when that person's in custody and you want to interview them. So that's somebody that's actually under arrest or detained and they're not free to leave, and you want to interview them about a crime. So that's the difference between the two.
Okay,
so that's when your Miranda rights, everybody's heard those. So
right, exactly.
That's when that comes into play.
Yeah. No, like I said, this question happened yesterday. We had a bunch of folks come in from the Mount Zion Church, and we had this whole presentation, and they wanted the tour of the police department. I was trying to explain to them, and the question came up: how do you know, like, if I'm being interviewed, am I a suspect? Am I like, a suspect in question? And I try to explain to them. I mean, I didn't do as good job as you just did, but I try to say to them, it could be anyone. It could be someone that you're interested in hearing what they have to say about this particular case.
Right.
Now, the more information they give you, your brain can start processing and say, this sounds like he's or she's more of a suspect than a witness, right?
Yeah, you could start off with an interview, and that interview turns into an interrogation, depending on what they say.
So an interrogation is really someone who's already been charged with a crime, right? Or they
potentially, or that
potentially, or there's things that you have to look in more that right now they're
not free to leave.
They're not free to leave, right? Okay. So yeah, that's really interesting stuff. So folks, as we know, the world has changed so much. We are a lot more vulnerable, which means that we have to be a lot more vigilant. We can't just take things for granted. It's nice to think that there are really good people in the world, and there are some amazing people in the world, and there's good human beings out there. Unfortunately, there are some people who are not good, and they want to make a living the illegal way.
Absolutely.
And how they do that is they will cheat, and they would scam, and it's easier for them. We always say, right? All the effort and all the work that you put into scamming someone, like, why don't you take that talent and go get a job?
Yeah, put that towards something good.
Yeah, like, do something good with your life instead of just trying to scam, folks into something that they've worked so hard for. So I'm going to ask you a question. What, in your opinion, all the years you've been doing this and your expertise, what would you say the top 3 crimes are, or the top 3 scams are that people really need to start looking out for?
Right. So we've definitely been seeing a lot more frauds in recent years. Probably the number one type of crime that we see in Criminal Investigations Division at Cornelius Police Department are frauds.
Okay.
If you would have asked me the same question years ago, it would have been property crimes, car B&Es, things like that. But nowadays it is fraud. So probably the number one type of scam or fraud that we're seeing nowadays would be like the straight up identity thefts.
Right.
Having accounts opened in somebody's name, whether it be a cell phone company account open in your name. We're getting the like the government type scam where somebody calls you and says that they're with a sheriff's department and you didn't show up for jury duty, and if you don't pay them in gift cards, they're going to come arrest you.
Yep.
We're seeing a lot of that type of scam.
Okay.
And some of the fake job type scams. People think that they've obtained some type of online job. Somebody sends them a check to get started to buy, quote unquote office equipment, and you send them the remainder money back.
Right.
But what you're actually become as a money mule.
Right. Right.
You're helping them launder money, and the money is coming from another victim somewhere else. So,
wow.
Those are the type of scams that we're currently seeing.
Okay. So is it possible for someone to, and again, like, I'm just thinking back in my brain because these are questions that come up all the time. Is it possible for, say, me to open up or to apply for a credit card in somebody else's name? As long as I have their vital information, I can apply for the credit card, get it sent to an address, maybe, right, and start using the credit card, right?
Absolutely.
Same with a bank account, or as you said, like a cell phone.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, okay. So frauds, right? And I know there's many different levels of fraud, and there's many different types of crimes in that, right? Would you say, so we say identity theft is one. What about check frauds, like washing of checks or any kind of like forgery, things like that? Like, talk about that a little bit.
So we do see a lot of that still. It's not quite like the old fashioned, actually washing a check like it used to be. It's actual fraudulent checks being made. People actually printing fake checks.
Right.
A check may have a false company name or a false name on it, but it's got a victim's checking account information embossed on the bottom. So we are still seeing some of that. I don't think it's quite as big as it used to be, but we do still see that.
Yeah, that's it's incredible. And unfortunately, the technology has grown so much, right, that these criminals are getting smarter.
Absolutely.
And they're learning how to do all this stuff. And again, it wouldn't be wonderful if they took all that skill and all that talent and did something good with it.
Absolutely. And we're always playing catch up to the criminals because, as soon as, we as law enforcement or the victims start figuring out what the criminals are doing, then the criminals move on and start doing something else. So it's, we're constantly learning what the new trend is for sure.
Right. Yeah. And, we've seen an uptick in that, with the computers. I mean, computers are great, but they can also be, used to really victimize people as well.
Absolutely.
Right. So, what about these phone call scams? So I had someone call me up the other day and said, "Hey, I got a weird phone call today. Somebody from the Mecklenburg County Courthouse called, like you said before, said that I missed jury duty, and they do not remember getting anything in the mail that says you have to report to jury duty." Same thing, and they gave them like a docket number. Now, us being law enforcement, we know what the numbers start with in the letters.
Right.
Like there was no such thing.
Right.
Right. It was like a CB or a CL or something, and we know that's not, legit. But you get some older folks, you get some folks who don't really know, or say you just moved here, you don't know, and you think it sounds legit, like they know all the information about the court, and same thing.
Yep. These criminals they're very rehearsed. I mean, they sound very legitimate. They know exactly what they're saying to convince the victims. But definitely a lot of the times, in what they're saying, there's going to be things that are going to stand out, especially like the way they're going to ask you to pay money. They're going to ask you to pay in a gift card or Bitcoin or something like that. So that's what we're seeing, and those are the red flags that should definitely stand out. No sheriff's department is ever going to contact you and say that you have a warrant. You can either pay it off or we'll come arrest you. No, we're just going to come arrest you if you have a warrant.
Yeah, we're not going to give you the choice, right?
Yeah. So and same with a similar type scam they may call from your power company or your water company, and hey, you got a past due bill. If you don't pay in gift card, we're going to shut off your water. So and they do target, a lot of times they target the elderly, but it's not limited to just the elderly. We have a lot of younger victims that fall victim as well.
Is there a scam going on that someone will call the older folks maybe, and like you said, maybe it doesn't have to be. It doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, listen, the older we get, we want to think we get smarter and we're more, we're more versed in these things and we're more aware of these scams. But you call and you say, "Hey, your son or your grandson has been arrested." He doesn't want to call his folks, right? That's something that we're going to talk about after the commercial break, but this is really important. And we're also going to touch upon a couple of other things that I want to really find out, again, what the top 3 scams are. And then the next segment is going to be how to avoid it.
Yep.
Right. So, folks, we'll be right back. Thanks for listening. We'll check in.
More About Town with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam. Coming up on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, our rain finally moving out. Sunshine peeking out this afternoon. What a sight for sore eyes. It'll get windy, though. Wind gusts around 20 to 25 miles an hour. Temperatures climb up to around 60 to finish off our Thursday. We'll get cold tonight. Temperatures drop back down to around freezing, and heading into our Friday for Valentine's Day. Sunny and cold with highs in the upper 40s to near 50. Our rain comes back for the weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Craving a taste of Italy? At Palmadoro's, we serve up scratch-made comfort with every bite. From our hand-tossed pizzas to classic pasta dishes, it's the perfect place to gather your family or just treat yourself. Visit palmadoros.com for menus and hours. Your table's waiting.
Don't just love the lake, live it. Shop LKN Local, where you'll find unique apparel, home decor, and gifts with a lake vibe you'll just adore. Made by locals for locals, they'll even hand-deliver to select zip codes. Shop LKN-local.com today.
According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, texting while driving is on the rise and quickly becoming a leading cause of traffic accidents and fatalities. Please, do your part. Put the phone down when driving. The life you save may just be your own or that of a loved one. That's from the Factory Coffee House, where they say service isn't just a courtesy, it's a commitment. For more information, call 336-753-8866. That's 336-753-8866 for the Factory Coffee House at 128 North Main Street in Mocksville.
Brighten up your winter wardrobe at Mina's Boutique, a curated selection of affordable, on-trend fashion for all shapes and sizes. Located in downtown Cornelius, Mina's is your go-to spot for clothes and accessories that bring joy to every season. See you at Mina's.
Caregiving can be overwhelming, but fear not. Equity Health Primary Care is here to help. They specialize in personalized care for your loved ones. In clinic, at home, or virtually, they provide support, understanding, and resources to make the journey a little easier. Visit equityhealthcares.com.
How about savings off a brand new car? Randy, Marion, Ford, Lincoln, and Statesville, we've got our service loaners with just a few thousand miles on them. Save thousands of dollars on all makes and models. That's F-150, Expedition, Explorers, Lincolns, Corsair, Navigator. I tell you, these cars are like brand new. Never been titled. You're the first owner. Save thousands. Randy, Marion, Ford, Lincoln, I-77, right here in Statesville. You know where we are, folks. Right where the spinning car is. That's where the deals are. Randy, Marion, Ford, Lincoln. Come see us today.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
Home of the best talk.
WSIC. Local starts here.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. When people think about inflation, they may think first about groceries and gas. And indeed, that's what's leading wholesale costs higher right now. The January Producer Price Index increased to more than forecast 3.5% from a year earlier, led by the costs of food and energy. The rating comes after yesterday's higher than forecast January Consumer Price Index measuring retail inflation. And together they suggest interest rates should not be cut right now. Adults eating at restaurants while trying to save money or calories or both are giving the kids' menu a second look these days. Wall Street Journal says escalating food costs and healthier eating habits have more grown-ups gravitating toward the smaller prices and portions of the preteen bill of fare. Such a fast-growing trend that it's spawning social media influencers to analyze and review kids' menus for grown-ups. Wall Street's indexes right now higher, Dow gaining 0.25%, S&P 500 up 0.5%, NASDAQ rising 1%. Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
The best talk all day long.
WSIC.
Local starts here. About Town continues now. Here's your host, Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
And welcome back, everyone. You're listening to the Woody Washam Show, About Town. I am Officer Vinnie DiGerolamo, filling in for Mayor Woody Washam. And as you know, the second Thursday of every month is Public Safety Day. We talk about what's going on in our police department, what's happening in town, what all the events. And every week, every second Thursday, I have a special guest, which I do today. Again, if you're just filling in, I'm here with Detective Bradley Nichols. He's from the Criminal Investigations Unit of our police department here in town, and we're really proud of all the work that the detectives do. And we also have another division, which is a CRU. Now that's a little different than what CID. It's like different crimes that they handle, things like that. And it's made up of the 4 detectives. You have a sergeant, which is Christopher Prescott, and then you also have CRU, which is again made up of a sergeant, and then you've got 3 detectives there, yeah. Right? So, so when right before the commercial break, we talked about scams. We talked about some of the things that you have to really be vigilant on. Unfortunately, these criminals are getting smarter. They have the technology.
Right.
They're preying on folks of all ages. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're older, you're younger. You know, you're 17 years old, 18 years old, and you're getting a call from someone and you're scared, like you don't want to tell your parents. And they said, listen, the only way out of this is to send me, gift cards, or, you need to pay us by this date. And we talked about jury duty scams. You'll get someone from what you believe is from the courthouse, saying that you missed jury duty and there's going to be a warrant out for your arrest, but you need to pay me $500 in Apple gift cards. Now, I mean, I like to think that people out there are a lot smarter than this, but you don't know.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Well, and these people that are calling, like I said, they're very rehearsed. They sound very convincing on the phone call. They will try to keep you on the phone when they're talking to you. If you're starting to show that you're not quite believing them, they'll step up that pressure on that phone call with you, intimidating you, trying to keep you on the phone. I've plenty of my victims, almost every victim that I've had that falls for these scams, they tell me, I thought this sounded like a scam. It didn't sound right to me, but I just I didn't want to be arrested, so I went and bought the gift cards, and so if I could just speak to people out there, listen to that spidey sense that you have. Listen, to, listen to that intuition that you have. That if it doesn't sound right, it doesn't pass the smell test. Please, do not fall for this. We do not mind if you call the police department and say, "Hey, I got this phone call. Does this sound right to you? Can you check this out? Does this sound like a scam?" We do not mind at all if you contact us.
Sure.
And we would much rather have a 5-minute phone call with you and tell you, "Hey, this is a scam," than for you to lose your life savings falling for one of these scams.
Right. And on that note, that was my other question I had for you, and I'm sure the folks out there want to know. So when you send money, say you send money through Zelle or through Venmo or one of these cash apps, right? Or you see that money is taken out of your checking account, your savings account. What are the chances of that money being recovered?
So it really depends on where the money goes.
Okay.
So if it goes to a legitimate banking institution, whether it's Zelled to another bank account somewhere, it's possible. But if it's then transferred to something like a Bitcoin or some type of cryptocurrency or anything like that, I can tell you it is highly unlikely.
Yeah.
We definitely do our best in trying to get to that money as soon as possible. We issue search warrant subpoenas to these banking institutions, trying to trace the money, that sort of thing.
Okay.
But when you start getting into things like cryptocurrency, that stuff is unregulated. A lot of this stuff goes to foreign entities overseas. It is very hard to track down.
Yeah.
So likelihood of getting your money back, and especially if it's going to gift cards, things like that, or like cryptocurrency, it's very unlikely we're getting that money back.
Yeah. And as you mentioned too, which was a good point, most of the criminals are not even they're not local, right? I mean, they could be calling from other countries.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing most of the time. It would be very unusual for these criminals to actually be from Cornelius.
Yeah,
most of the time, they're not even in the state of North Carolina, and typically not even in the United States, from what we're seeing. When we're getting, after issuing search warrants and things for IP addresses or phone numbers or bank accounts, a lot of the times they're coming back to foreign countries.
Yeah, that's really something. I had one time that actually you and I worked on it together. Actually, she had received checks via email, right? And then she deposited those checks, and then next thing you know, her bank account's wiped out,
right?
And then they make the threatening phone calls. Oh, we know where you live. We know your phone number. We know you're in Charlotte area. I mean, this information is easy to obtain, I mean, with Google searches, I can type in anybody's name and all that information comes up, which is kind of scary, right? But so it's just things like that, and you made a good point before. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. If you have to question anything in your mind, no matter what it is, you need to investigate before you become a victim.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't feel right, like I said, if you have to constantly question, say, geez, I don't know. I've never heard about this before. Let me call the police department.
Absolutely.
Let me call the experts who can kind of guide me in the right direction to say, don't deposit this or don't do that, or let's look into it. We're never too busy to help people with questions and concerns. I mean, that's our jobs, right? I mean, that's what we do.
Trust those intuitions, those senses.
Yeah.
You're usually right.
Yeah, it's usually right? So the one thing we talked about are phone scams.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see someone getting a phone call in the middle of the night saying their grandson has been arrested, but they're afraid to call their parents, and when we asked him or her, who do we call? Well, you got to call my grandmother, my grandfather.
Right.
Here's the number. You can send $500 and they'll be free, and no one has to know.
Yep. Absolutely seen it. Yep. Absolutely seen it. And I've even had, a victim that talked to the person on the phone that was pretending to be their family member, and even, they started having that sense, well, you don't sound like my grandson. Oh, I was in a car wreck and my nose was broken. That's why I don't sound like myself.
Oh, my goodness. That's incredible.
But, yeah, we absolutely see that. And same thing, the method of payment, is not legitimate of what you would see with something like that.
Right.
Another thing I don't think we've talked about, but, these criminals are using technology like what we call spoofing phone numbers. There's apps, technology out there that can make the phone call look like it's coming from a legitimate company, whether it be or calling from a sheriff's department or calling from a jail somewhere.
Really?
So it can look like it's coming from a legitimate company, but but they're not. They're using these apps. They could be coming from a foreign country.
Sure.
Wow,
that's scary.
Same thing. Like I said, those senses of what they're saying, it does not sound right. It doesn't make sense of why they would be calling me, or the method of payment does not sound right. Just be mindful of those type things.
Okay, so we talked about these phone scams. We talk about identity theft. We talk about some check scamming and bank scamming. Is there anything else you can think of that has been an ongoing issue, and it's becoming more and more, prominent now than it was years ago? Is there anything else you can tell folks out there about?
Yeah, maybe like the tech support type scam. If you're, on your computer, all of a sudden it freezes up and you get a pop-up that comes up on the computer and says you have a virus. Call this 1-800 number or click on this bubble. Do not call the number. Do not click on that. It's typically a spyware or some type of virus.
Okay.
It may look like it's coming from a legitimate company like Microsoft or something, but a lot of times they're going to ask you to pay a payment to them first, and it's 100% a scam. So.
How about folks who get text messages? I get them all the time from UPS, from FedEx. It could be anything, saying your package has arrived or you need to reclaim this package, right? Yep. Talk a little bit about that real quick, about when you see a text message that you don't know who it's from, it could say UPS, FedEx.
Yep.
What's going on with that?
Absolutely a scam. I get them myself. Do not click on the links.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Wow, this is all good stuff. And again, the more information that we could gather, the more awareness we can bring to folks, the safer they are.
Absolutely.
So, folks, we're going to be right back with Detective Brad Nichols. We're going to wrap up our show, but stay tuned, and we'll be right back after commercial break.
There's more About Town with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam on the way from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, our rain finally moving out. Sunshine peeking out this afternoon. What a sight for sore eyes. It'll get windy, though. Wind gusts around 20 to 25 miles an hour. Temperatures climb up to around 60 to finish off our Thursday. We'll get cold tonight. Temperatures drop back down to around freezing, and heading into our Friday for Valentine's Day. Sunny and cold with highs in the upper 40s to near 50. Our rain comes back for the weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Thursday, February 13th, Lake Norman Woman Magazine is hosting Ladies Night at Bin 110 in Cornelius. The relaxing social evening begins at 6:30 p.m. Feel free to come make new friends, get to know your neighbors in the community, and possibly catch up with pals you have not seen in a while. Bin 110 hosts Ladies Night this Thursday, brought to you by Lake Norman Woman Magazine. The Wine Maestro in Statesville has live music with Captain Dar on Friday. Captain Dar delivers entertainment with a capital E. With his acoustic music sets, it makes a perfect addition to your Valentine's Day plans. The Wine Maestro in Statesville presents live music on Friday night at 7 p.m. Mooresville Arts and Events welcomes you to join them for a date night like no other in the ballrooms of the Charles Mack Citizen Center on Friday and Saturday. Sigmund Theatrical's Murder Mystery Crew is back with Check-In for Murder. The action will unfold around you, with some guests even becoming characters inside of the story. It's a high-class evening of dinner, theater, and mystery. Visit statesvilleevents.com for tickets and information. Enjoy the Valentine's Day special at the Speedway Club at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Come celebrate with that someone special with a 3-course dinner or something off the regular menu. The Speedway Club Valentine's special runs Thursday, February 13th through Saturday, February 15th. Then on Sunday, you can cheer on your favorite driver during the Great American Race at the Speedway Club Daytona 500 viewing party. Visit 704-455-3216 for Speedway Club reservations or visit charlottemotorspeedway.com for more information. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Merlefest 2025, presented by Window World, returns April 24th through the 27th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Hear the Avett Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, The Dead South, Watch House, Wyatt Floors, I'm With Her, Leftover Salmon, The Warren Treaty, The Steel Drivers, and many more. For tickets, visit merlefest.org.
It's About Town with Cornelius Mayor Woody Washam on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. Local starts here.
And welcome back, Lake Norman. Again, thanks for listening. This is the Woody Washam Show, About Town. Filling in for Woody Washam is Officer Vinnie DiGerolamo, and I have here with me Detective Brad Nichols from the Cornelius Police Department. So, Detective, we're talking about crimes and all these scams that people are falling victim to, and there's many different levels of scams. You know, we know there's ID theft, there's bank scams, there's phone scams, there's UPS text messages scams, right? You know, and again, like we were just talking on commercial break, like we can go deep into the weeds about crime prevention, about people knocking on your door from the electric company, gas companies.
Absolutely.
You got to be just so super smart, and you got to be really careful about this stuff, you know, because all it takes is one click of a button and all your information is captured.
Absolutely.
Right. So anything else you can think about that people need to kind of be aware of? And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to prevent this, or what advice you can give to folks out there listening.
Right. Only thing I think, just like I said, just be aware. You know, just be mindful of, you know, the things you're clicking on. You know, the things you're searching for. If you're searching for a phone number for some type of customer support for a company, you know, make sure that it's the actual company before you call that number. Don't just choose the first result that comes up in Google, that sort of thing. So, just do your due diligence when you're searching for things like that. You know, don't click on a link on a text message if you're not expecting to get a message from this particular person or company or anything like that. So just be very mindful and aware.
Okay, good. So the advice you would give folks out there is just that. Really be mindful.
Yes.
Be vigilant about this. Watch where you're sending money.
Absolutely.
How can people protect themselves? What advice would you give them to really protect themselves? Like, should you have information on your phone? Like, I know sometimes people put like a picture of their credit card or their driver's license or social security card on their phone, or maybe, so is there anything, like any advice you can give to say, okay, don't do this,
right,
so it could reduce or eliminate this crime?
Yeah, so I mean, as far as like a picture, credit card, I definitely would recommend not doing that. You know, a lot of the phones nowadays, you know, personally carry an iPhone, but a lot of phones nowadays have a lot of security features as far as, like Apple Pay or things like that have a lot of security features, different encryption and two-factor authentication, things like that. They're going to prevent people from being able to steal that information off of your devices. Definitely if you have a phone or computer, make sure that they're passcode protected and make sure that it's a significant passcode. It's not something that's easily able to be unlocked. Even if that means that, facial recognition or thumbprint or whatever.
Okay.
Nowadays a lot of banks are offering, credit monitoring and protection for free.
Okay.
I know my bank does that for free. Every so often I get, an update saying this is your, your credit score, or this is, showed up on your credit.
Yeah.
So I definitely encourage people to take advantage of that with their banks, and keep an eye on your credit reports. If something is showing up on your credit report that you don't recognize, certainly report that. That's a sign of potential identity theft if an account's been opened that you're not aware of.
Okay, that's good.
There are other companies out there nowadays that you can pay for services to do that, but like I said, a lot of banks are doing that for you nowadays as well. So,
how about you had mentioned something? I think a couple of weeks ago, I think maybe a little longer, we went to the Fifth Third Bank, right? And we had a little gathering there, and we talked about exactly the same thing we're talking about today. How to not fall victim, how to be careful what you're doing and what you're seeing and what information you're giving out. Hotels. You had mentioned you go to a hotel. Should you get on to the unsecured network? Talk a little bit about internet issues.
Yeah, I would absolutely recommend if you're using any type of device that has your personal information on it, or you're going to be using it to log into your banking account or anything like that, or transmitting any type of banking information, definitely do not use an unsecured Wi-Fi access like at a hotel or a coffee shop or anything like that.
Okay.
You need to make sure that this is a secure Wi-Fi access, and when I say secure, meaning passcode protected. You don't want Wi-Fi that just anybody has access to, because that's an open door for somebody to steal your information.
So in other words, you go to a coffee shop, you go into a store, or like any public place. When it finds the Wi-Fi, it actually says unsecured network, right?
Correct.
Meaning that like you can sign as a guest, or it's free Wi-Fi. So if you don't have to put a password in there, it's very vulnerable, and anybody can just like basically hack into your phone.
Absolutely.
From that. Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Anybody can sit there and intercept all the traffic that's coming into that Wi-Fi.
It's incredible. And again, this is not stuff you think about, right? You could be so smart in all your fields of work and everything that you do, but these are the little things that you don't think about. And I got to tell you, I'm guilty of it. Like I go someplace and I want to get on the Wi-Fi because, God forbid if we don't look at Facebook fast enough, right? It's unsecured. I don't know what happens. I'll tell you a quick story. My wife had gotten a phone. She was waiting for a phone call from England, from London. I mean, legitimately waiting for this phone call, and she sees this foreign number come up, and then she gets a text message first and didn't know what it was, right? Gets this phone call. She answers the phone. Nobody's on the other line. And she's thinking it's a work call, right? Just, hello. When she's, asking for the person who knows that's supposed to be calling, right? Let's call him Bill, right? Bill's supposed to call from London, and there's nobody there. Well, the phone goes dead. Then she gets a text message. She clicks on the link or opens it just like that. I had a lot of money drained out of my savings account. I was like blown away. Oh my God. Like, are you kidding me?
That's how easy it is. It's crazy.
That's how easy, and she felt terrible, but it's like, who knew? Like if I know I'm waiting for a call from someone and I click on the link or I answer that call, it's just as quick as that. All that information's gone. Now, thank God we have a good bank where we're able to recover the money quickly.
Right.
But every time I make a purchase anybody in my household makes a purchase on the debit card, we get alerts. Hey, your debit card was used at this place at this time, and how much is it?
Yep. And that's probably a good thing to set up with your bank too, if they offer that, is have an alert. You know, if you see something pop up that you don't recognize, you know, that's rather have that than, you know, have a bunch of money rack up that you're not aware of. So
it's incredible. So every time I see that, it's the same thing. It's usually Amazon,
right?
You know, but I always make a joke. You know, we moved from New Jersey. I said this. You know, I said when we moved, the poor Amazon guy, I think, lost his job because he kept coming to my house, right? But yeah, you know, folks, you got to be so careful.
Absolutely,
you really got to be so careful. But this has been really, really informative. You know, we really appreciate your time, Detective Nichols, and you do a great job for us. Really, all the detectives. I mean, you're so dedicated, you're hardworking, and you care about the crime. It's not like, oh, it's another cyber crime, it's another bank scam. Probably not going to solve it, but everything that you do, every crime that comes in, every investigation that needs to be taken place, you guys put your heart and soul into it, and that's great. You know, I mean, that's really something to be said for how proud we are to be working for this, you know, this agency, and we know that the folks in town are protected. You know, and again, we're never too busy to answer your questions.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, if you don't think something is right, it's probably not right. You know, and so we're super proud of what we do, and but yeah. So on that note, you know, what we're going to do now is we're going to take it over, and we talk about all the community events now, right? So, you know, as you know, folks, that in the police department, we love to engage in the community. It's so important to have that relationship, and we have met so many incredible people who own homes in town. They own businesses. They, you know, they work and they live and they play in town, and we love them, you know, I mean, and we have such a respectful relationship, especially with kids. You know, I particularly love going to the schools. I love talking to kids. I love talking to the older folks. I love talking to anybody who wants to listen to me, right? And, you know, we do a lot of crime prevention stuff. We have a lot of community neighborhood watch programs starting. We started off with like 2, not too long ago. Like, we're up to like 7 neighborhoods that, yeah, you know, they want to get involved, and people want to protect their homes, their vehicles, and their neighbors. Why not watch out for each other? Everyone's got to watch out for each other. So that's what this community watch program is all about. Crime prevention, right? We have seminars. We go to Bailey's Glen. We go to different places, and we talk about how to protect your home, you know, protect your cars, you know, things like that. So, folks, if you're ever interested in doing anything like that, if you want to start a neighborhood watch program, please call the police department, ask for Officer Vinnie. I will set you up. I'll come to your neighborhood. We'll have a committee. We'll have some coffee, and we'll talk about how we can do this. Crime prevention, you want to know how to keep your home safe or your car safe, or not fall victim of anyone who's acting suspicious? Let's do it. Breakfast with the Blue, February 21st from 8 to 10. We do at Chick-fil-A. We're going to have a bunch of our officers out there. We're going to have some coffee and Chick-fil-A. Please come out to that. We're starting another Citizens Academy soon. A shred event coming on May 3rd at Town Hall. Lots of good stuff, folks. I'll be sure to keep you informed next show. Thanks for listening. Detective Nichols, thanks for everything.
Thank you for having me.
Take care, folks.
Serving you better than ever before.